Welcome to the Planning Menus to Prevent Food Waste presentation. My name is David Reed from Prestige Purchasing and on behalf of WRAP. WRAP are funded by all UK governments and work with the hospitality and food service sector to reduce waste and increase recycling rates. I'll be taking you through the presentation to give you an overview of how the menu planning process works and how you can influence it to improve the performance of your business. As you can see, the presentation is aimed at all individuals and departments within a business that have some degree of influence on the menu planning process. Some caterers believe that the management of food waste has a lot to do with things like ordering and stock levels, or not cooking off too much at once. This is of course correct, but significant reductions can be made simply by designing menus well, so that waste is eliminated even before the food reaches the kitchen in the first place. Efficient menu planning is intrinsically linked with waste prevention, so it's important to continually review and assess your menu options. In this presentation, we're aiming to provide an insight into the importance of effective menu planning and how it can help your business save money and help you reduce food waste, to increase your understanding of the cost implications of the choices made when procuring, processing, storing and disposing of food, and to pinpoint opportunities for food waste prevention in your business with some examples of good practice. For those who are signatories to WRAP's Hospitality and Food Service Agreement, this presentation will help you work towards the targets. If you're not yet familiar with the agreement and how it can help your business, visit www.wrap.org.uk/hospitality. Wastage of food in the hospitality industry is a significant problem. If we look at WRAP's research, we can see that the cost of food waste isn't just the cost of buying the food. It also includes the costs of storing the food, preparing it, cooking, serving, and disposing of the waste. Food waste costs the hospitality and food service sector an estimated £2.5 billion per year in 2011, with costs expected to rise to £3 billion by 2016. 3/4 of all food that ends up in the bin could have been eaten. On average, food waste costs each hospitality and food service outlet £10,000 per annum. So apart from this being important from an environmental perspective, it also makes for very good housekeeping too. WRAP's research shows that the equivalent of 1.3 billion meals are thrown away every year. In other words, for every 6 meals that are produced, the equivalent of 1 will be thrown away. When we talk about food waste, many hospitality and food service businesses think just about the costs of waste disposal. These costs are, however, only a tiny proportion of the total cost of waste, at just 3.4% of the total. What this slide shows is that the majority of the cost of waste lies in the purchase cost of the food and the labour that is required to process it. These two components equate to almost 90% of the total cost. By focusing specifically on managing menu options and by making a number of simple changes, hospitality and food service companies can make a significant positive impact on increasing their gross profit margins. Many of these costs are increasing, so the embedded costs associated with food waste are likely to increase. Planning menus effectively can ensure food waste is reduced and avoided. Food waste arises across the 3 areas of hospitality and food service businesses, with food preparation making the largest contribution. Often, hospitality and food service businesses place most emphasis on spoilage and food preparation waste, because these are areas in which they think they can most easily influence change. Customer plate waste, however, is also important and may provide invaluable information about portion sizes or the level of satisfaction with specific menu items. Here we can see the breakdown of the type of food wasted in the hospitality and food service sector. It shows 40% of food that is wasted is carbohydrates, including potato, bread, pasta and rice. Reduced wastage in carbohydrates would have a significant impact on the total amount of food being wasted when measured by weight. The value of items in the waste, however, is different to the waste profile. Items in the waste that have highest value are often meat and fish and fruit and vegetables. Many of the opportunities for waste prevention at the menu planning stage can help to meet the Hospitality and Food Service Agreement's targets in addition to other government policy aims such as the Department of Health's Responsibility Deal. This would include providing a range of portion sizes. By offering customers a choice of different portion sizes, they can buy what they need, which may reduce the amount of food left on a plate. Let's now take a look at what we call the waste hierarchy. When we view waste prevention within the waste hierarchy, we see that waste prevention comes at the top of the hierarchy. Preventing waste arising in the first place will be the best way to deliver financial as well as environmental savings. The most important thing to remember on menu planning is that in general, more complication in menu ranging generates more waste. As caterers, we're always keen to give our customers more value and plenty of choice, which of course is good, but when that extra choice is made without good thought and reference to what the customer really wants, the result is more food being wasted. Here we can see all the different ways menu planning can impact on reducing food waste. In order to understand how menu planning can positively impact food waste, it's helpful to see catering as a value chain. When someone sets up a catering organisation, they do so with a vision for what will make it special and different. This is then interpreted into menus, which in turn generate recipes. These turn into ingredient lists and are cooked on kitchen equipment by chefs. The result is usually a delicious experience for the diner, but along the way lots of decisions get made, most of which can and do impact on the amount of food that ends up being wasted. Some menus, for example, have as little as 8 dishes on them, others over 100. Which one will typically generate the most waste? Well, as you can guess, it's the menu with over 100 dishes. This is a more formal way of looking at a food value chain. Almost all of the bulleted items contain decisions that can impact on the amount of food that ends up being wasted. Take the production planning box, for example. The more appropriate the kitchen is in terms of the right equipment being available, and the better the layout of the kitchen, all means that staff can be more efficient when preparing meals and moving around the space. Staff in the kitchen should also be trained adequately for the role they are carrying out and understand the importance of reducing food waste so they do not contribute unnecessarily. Further, it is vital that there is sufficient storage and the appropriate type of storage available for the food. This will help with the management of stock and ensure that stock does not go past its use-by date. And likewise, the recipe box contains further opportunities. The higher the number of ingredients or stock-keeping units, as suppliers refer to them, to deliver the menu, the more food that has to be purchased, stored, and ultimately either eaten or thrown away. Giving consumers different portion sizes will help reduce plate returns, and part-baked bread with a long shelf life will allow smaller batches to be cooked and less waste to occur. Similar opportunities exist within almost every box in the value chain. When you pause to consider it, there are so many ways in which menu planning can influence waste prevention. These include giving your customer the right amount of choice. Look around at your competition or peer organisations. There are many examples of successful caterers delighting their customers with a more limited choice of dishes. The 60-40 rule generally applies to menu planning, i.e. 60% of menu items will comprise 90% of the orders in many businesses, and the remaining 40% account for the remaining 10% of orders. The more items there are on the menu, the greater the number of ingredients and mise en place required to service them, and then the higher the potential for food being wasted. Cross-utilising ingredients so that more than one menu item uses each ingredient is another way of helping to improve efficiency. Buy small quantities of short shelf life items, or utilise ingredients with a longer shelf life. Keep the range of ingredients down so that more of each ingredient is used so that there is greater stock turn on every line. Ensure your equipment is fit for purpose and the layout of the kitchen is optimal for your requirements. Make sure staff are trained on how to reduce spoilage and kitchen waste. Offer customers the choice of different portion sizes. For example, smaller portions, you could offer a refill or a second helping. Consider offering customers options for side dishes so that they can order what they prefer and will not leave food on the plate. And do less batch production and cook more to order. Here's a simple example of how two entirely fictitious food outlets demonstrate that ingredient range has a direct impact on the likelihood of more waste. The first one we've called Churros Cantina and only sells one product type, churros with chocolate sauce. The second is a smart Italian diner called La Capostelle and sells a multitude of menu options across 3 different menus during the course of the day. Churros Cantina's one dish requires a very low number of ingredients, just 5. La Capostelle, on the other hand, has so much variety that it has 58 dishes, resulting in 930 ingredients being used. This isn't in any way intended to suggest that La Capostelle's business model is flawed. Rather, it demonstrates how an increase in dishes can have a massive influence on the number of ingredients used. And that in turn means more storage, more mise en place, and almost certainly more waste. So the important thing to note is that you can improve your menu planning within your existing business model just by paying attention to the amount of choice that you offer your diner. As well as looking at menu ranging, it's also helpful to look at the makeup of individual dishes. In 2 different hotel restaurants, both were offering crab as a menu option. One was a simple salad which had 8 ingredients, 4 cooking processes, and took up chef time of 20 minutes. The other was a trio of crab which required 23 ingredients, 10 different cooking processes, and took up 55 minutes of chef time. Reviewing all parts of the menu, including how each dish is constructed and prepared, is vital to maximising the best from your menu. Interestingly, in this case, the crab salad tasted the best, had a lower selling price, and a higher margin for the caterer too. So having more ingredients has a substantial impact on food waste. And here's a simple summary of how. Every new ingredient you put on a menu has to be cooked or prepared in some way. This may put more pressure on labour cost as well. Every new ingredient has a proportion of it that may be wasted, which could push up the amount of food being wasted in total. Every new ingredient requires storage. If it's chilled or frozen, it uses energy to store it too. Every new ingredient means another box on your supply truck, which creates more complexity upstream in your supply chain. And every new ingredient adds complexity to your cooking. It's worth noting that changes to existing dishes are essential to most hospitality and food service outlets, as tweaks reflect seasonality and retain customer interest. This business is a great example of how good menu planning can keep food waste down and positively impact profits as well. It's a Vietnamese fast casual chain called Pho. At Pho, they pay a great deal of attention to keeping the number of ingredients down by using many within multiple dishes. By great imaginative design, they give the diner loads of choice but keep their ingredients list to one of the lowest in their sector. They also look very carefully at what gets made versus what gets bought in, so that they maximise their labour whilst keeping food waste to an absolute minimum. Go take a look. And here's another example. Tampopo are a successful operation in the north of England who specialise in Pan-Asian cooking. There are several branches which are all on the same menu. When they came to move into London, they knew that they had to create a different concept and menu to meet the needs of the London market. They called this East Street. The smart thing is that they managed to introduce this new concept using the same ingredient list as their Tampopo restaurants. The result was that they were able to plug in their existing supply chain, reducing complexity again. The best way to improve the performance of your business by reducing waste through menu planning is to model the results on an ongoing basis. Here are some ways in which this can be done. One way is to use dynamic menu modeling. Step 1. Assemble any information that you have on customer need. This includes historical sales mix on types of dishes and may also include feedback from customer surveys or focus groups. Step 2. Compile data on the amount of food waste, analysing spoilage, preparation and kitchen waste, as well as plate waste from customers. Step 3. Using the information in Step 1 and Step 2, compile menus, develop your recipes, determine the range of ingredients that you will use, and start serving your customers. In Step 4, start measuring the outputs, customer sales mix, gross profit, and essentially the levels of food waste generated. This can be done on quite short time periods. A month or even a week is all that's required. Once complete, you have a starting point from which to measure progress. Now start the process again using the knowledge you've gained and try changing the range of dishes or the recipes in order to reduce the number of ingredients. Then start the process again and measure the outcomes. By reviewing customer feedback, sales mix, gross profit and food waste levels, you will, within a few iterations, make significant gains through this method. For example, we've seen a company recently reduce food waste by 29%, improve gross profit by 1.3%, and improve guest feedback scores at the same time by using dynamic menu modelling. WRAP has lots of support available to help you measure food waste. The website link is at the end of this presentation. Another way is to carry out a planning review. It is good to document a whole menu on a grid like this one. Document everything from the number of dishes and ingredients for each course, right through to the spoilage and customer returns. This gives an in-depth view of a whole menu. Once this task has been completed, you can amend the number of dishes or review the composition of the ingredients or change the cooking processes, then monitor it for a week and then compare the data against the original figures. This will help really refine your menus. Once you have the base data assembled from dynamic modelling or a planning review, you can then develop key performance indicators by combining any of the data points that you collect. By focusing particularly on the number of dishes and the number of ingredients, you can watch as you gradually refine your menu to higher levels of performance. The information should be collected on a basis that is appropriate for your company. For example, this may be on a daily or a weekly or a monthly basis. The information should be shared with staff to get them motivated and ensure that they are fully involved in tackling food waste. Another way of ensuring an efficient menu planning process is to ensure that it is a team-based activity with everyone that can make a difference fully involved. This example shows a high-level view of the menu planning process used by a hotel chain. There are 6 different people involved in menu planning, each with an important role. The food and beverage director sets some high-level goals for the new menu, covering sales and profit targets, spend per head and customer satisfaction. The marketing manager inputs customer information from client feedback forms and from focus groups. The food and beverage control then overlays this with historical menu sales mix. Once the food and beverage director refines the menu's goals based upon the additional inputs, the brief hits the exec chef's desk and he creates a draft menu. This is discussed with the purchasing manager to ensure that the right ingredients are being selected and that they are available at the best cost. The first draft is then reviewed by the full team before being piloted and tested live with clients. At this stage, the restaurant manager also becomes involved to input service requirements, and food and beverage control finalise the menu's costings. At this point, every member of the team is involved, all contributing their own value to the process. The menu is then implemented and reviewed, perhaps using dynamic menu modelling. The detail of the menu holds the success to profitability, customer satisfaction, and food waste. And a team-based plan, such as the one above, ensures that the best possible results are obtained. In particular, staff involvement and full engagement will ensure strategic planning is implemented, as staff will understand the importance of effectively managing food waste and the implications their actions have. In summary, the creation of highly effective menus is not only a critical process in the avoidance of food waste, but an essential part of creating happy customers and good margins in every catering organisation. Thank you for listening, and do let us know about the work that you're doing on food waste by emailing hafs@wrap.org.uk. And find out more about WRAP's work, including more tools and guidance to help you waste less, recycle more and save money at www.wrap.org.uk/hospitality. Thank you.